The rain fell heavy that night in Seoul, soaking the streets and painting the city in silver reflections. Cars hissed past, neon lights flickered, and somewhere in the distance, thunder grumbled like an angry beast. Nia pulled her thin coat tighter around her body as she hurried down the crowded street. She had worked late at the little bookstore where she spent most of her days, and now she was just tired, hungry, and desperate to get home before the storm grew worse. But fate had a different plan. She turned the corner too quickly, her shoes splashing into a puddle, and almost collided headfirst with a man. Not just any man. A tall figure in a half-buttoned black shirt, chest and tattoos exposed, stood in her path. His hair was damp from the rain, messy yet effortlessly styled, and his dark eyes burned like fire even in the shadows. Two other men in suits stood just behind him, their broad shoulders tense, their eyes sharp like wolves on the hunt. "Watch where you're going," he muttered, his voice low, deep, and laced with danger. Nia froze. She opened her mouth to apologize, but then her eyes darted past him, straight into the alley where he had stepped from. And that's when her heart stopped. A man lay slumped against the wall, clutching his stomach. Blood stained the pavement around him. Another suited guard was wiping a blade, sliding it back into his jacket as casually as if he had just finished eating dinner. Her breath caught in her throat. She had seen too much. The man in front of her tilted his head slightly, studying her face. She noticed then that his eyes weren't just cold, they were calculating, deadly. "Who are you?" he asked. Nia swallowed hard. Her voice trembled. "Jay? Just someone who took the wrong turn." One of his men stepped forward. "Boss," she saw. "I know what she saw." The tall man cut him off sharply. His eyes never left Nia. For a moment, silence filled the air except for the rain pounding the pavement. Nia's chest tightened. She didn't know whether to run, scream, or beg. Then, to her surprise, he chuckled. It was a deep, dark sound, almost amused. "You're not screaming," he said, his lips curling into the faintest smirk. Most people would have fainted by now. Her heart was racing, but she forced her chin up. "Maybe I don't scare easily." The two guards exchanged looks. Clearly, they weren't used to anyone, let alone a woman, talking back to their boss like that. The man's smirk deepened. "Interesting." He stepped closer, so close she could see the faint scar across his collarbone, the raindrops sliding down his tattoos like dark rivers. He leaned down slightly, his voice brushing against her ear. "Tell me your name." Nia's breath hitched. "Why should I?" "That did it." One of the guards growled, stepping forward as if to grab her. But the boss raised a hand without looking back. The guard froze. "She's got fire," he said softly, his eyes locked on hers. "Don't lose it." "I don't even know who you are," she whispered, though her voice wavered. He chuckled again, though there was no warmth in it. "You'll find out soon enough. Just remember this." His eyes hardened, the smirk fading into something colder. "Cross me, and you won't live to regret it." For a moment, thunder cracked overhead, almost echoing his warning. Nia's pulse pounded in her ears, but she forced herself not to step back. Something inside her, some mix of stubbornness and fear, kept her standing tall. "Maybe you're the one who should stay out of my way," she said softly. One of the guards actually choked on his breath. The boss's eyes narrowed, and then, slowly, he smiled again. "Careful," he murmured. "I might start liking you." The words sent a strange chill down her spine. Not fear exactly, something else. He finally stepped aside, giving her a path. His men looked stunned but said nothing. Nia exhaled shakily, brushing past him, her heart racing like a drum. She didn't look back, not once, until the main road again, lights and noise swallowing her fear. But deep down, she knew it wasn't over. Somehow, someway, that man would find her again. And when he did, her life would never be the same. The rain had slowed by the next morning, but Nia's mind hadn't stopped racing since last night. She lay awake most of the night, staring at the ceiling of her small apartment, replaying the scene over and over again. The alley, the blood, the man with tattoos, and those sharp, unsettling eyes that had studied her like prey. She should have run the moment she saw him. She should have screamed or gone to the police. But something about him had frozen her in place. And worse, something about him still lingered in her chest. Nia groaned, rolling over in bed and pulling the blanket over her face. What kind of idiot stares down a mafia boss and lives to talk about it? But life didn't stop just because she'd stumbled into trouble. By noon, she was back at her bookstore job, stacking dusty novels while her boss, Mr. Lee, hummed old love songs behind the counter. Customers came and went, flipping through pages, paying quietly, leaving quietly. It was the kind of ordinary rhythm Nia loved. Safe, predictable, or at least it was supposed to be. The bell over the door chimed. Nia didn't look up at first, assuming it was another student or tired office worker. But the silence that followed made her turn her head. And there he was, the man from last night. He wasn't soaked in rain this time. He was immaculate, black suit tailored perfectly, shirt crisp, silver rings glinting against his tattooed hand as he pushed the door shut behind him. His presence alone seemed to shift the air, pulling all the sound out of the room. Even Mr. Lee's humming stopped mid-note. Nia's blood ran cold. "You," she whispered. He smirked faintly, as if amused she recognized him so quickly. "Good. Saves me the trouble of introductions." Mr. Lee frowned. "Sir, can I help you with something?" The man's eyes didn't leave Nia. "No, I'm here for her." Mr. Lee glanced at her, clearly confused. Nia forced a shaky laugh. He's just an old acquaintance. I'll handle it." Her boss hesitated, then shrugged and went back to the counter, though his eyes lingered suspiciously. The man walked toward her slowly, his polished shoes making soft thuds against the wooden floor. Every step tightened the knot in her stomach. "What are you doing here?" she hissed under her breath once he was close enough. He leaned down slightly, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Didn't I tell you last night? You saw something you shouldn't have. That makes you my problem." Nia swallowed hard. "I didn't ask to see anything." "No," he agreed softly, his smirk widening. "But you did, and now I can't just let you wander around, running your mouth." Her eyes narrowed. "Do I look like someone who runs her mouth?" For a moment, silence. Then, unexpectedly, he chuckled deep and low. "You really don't. That's the only reason you're standing here today." Nia's heart skipped. He had thought about killing her. He probably still was. She forced herself not to step back. "So what? You came here to threaten me again? In broad daylight?" He tilted his head, eyes glinting with amusement. "If I wanted you gone, you'd be gone already. Consider this a warning." She crossed her arms, trying to hide her trembling hands. "And what exactly are you warning me about?" His expression darkened slightly, though the smirk didn't fade. "Stay out of my way. Don't ask questions. Don't follow curiosity where it doesn't belong. If you do, I won't hesitate next time." Nia raised a brow, fighting the urge to shiver under his gaze. "Do you talk to all women like this? Or am I just special?" His lips twitched. He leaned closer, close enough for her to smell the faint scent of whiskey and smoke clinging to him. "Special," he murmured. "You're definitely special." Her chest tightened, though she quickly masked it with sarcasm. "Lucky me," he chuckled again, pulling back slightly. "You really don't scare easily, do you?" "I should be terrified," she admitted softly. "But something tells me you enjoy that too much." That made his smile widen. "You're smarter than you look." "Smarter than you, maybe," she shot back without thinking. The moment the words left her mouth, she regretted them. The two suited men who had walked in behind him stiffened instantly, ready to pounce. But the boss only laughed. A deep, genuine laugh that drew a few startled looks from the customers browsing in the back. "You've got fire," he said finally, shaking his head. "I like that." Her cheeks warmed, though she quickly turned away, pretending to rearrange books on the shelf. "You're wasting your time." "I'm not scared, and I'm not interested." "You will be," he said smoothly. his voice low and confident. One way or another. Before she could snap back, he turned and walked away, his men following close behind. The bell chimed again as the door swung open, and just like that, he was gone. But Nia's hands were trembling as she gripped the edge of the shelf, because deep down, she knew he wasn't bluffing. He wasn't done with her, not even close. 3 days passed, 3 long, restless days, but Nia still couldn't shake him from her mind. She told herself she was fine, that she was overthinking, that men like him had better things to do than follow ordinary women who worked in dusty bookstores. Yet every time she caught her reflection in a shop window, every time she closed her eyes at night, she saw him. Those piercing eyes, those tattoos curling down his skin, that smirk that looked like trouble itself. "Get a grip, Nia," she muttered to herself as she wiped the bookstore counter. "He's dangerous. He warned you. Stay away." But fate wasn't that kind. It was late afternoon, the bookstore quiet except for the faint sound of jazz from the old radio. Mr. Lee had gone out for tea, leaving her alone. The bell over the door jingled, and she looked up with her customer smile ready. It wasn't a customer. It was him. Her heart lurched. He walked in like he owned the place, suit jacket draped over one shoulder, tattoos peeking from his open collar, and eyes that went straight to her as if she were the only person in the world. Nia's smile vanished. "You again." His lips twitched. "You sound disappointed. I was hoping for someone buying a book." "Not." She gestured vaguely at him. A walking warning sign. One of his men coughed, hiding a laugh. The boss shot him a sharp glance, and the man immediately straightened, face blank. Nia crossed her arms. "What do you want this time?" He strolled closer, glancing lazily at the shelves. "Books," he said smoothly. Her brows rose. "You? Books? Let me guess. How to Threaten Women 101. His smirk deepened. "Careful, kitten. One day your mouth will get you in trouble. Better than following strange men into alleys." She shot back. That actually made him laugh, low, rough, unexpected. He leaned on the counter, close enough that she caught the faint cologne mixing with the hint of smoke. "You've been thinking about me," he said suddenly, eyes sharp. Nia blinked. "Excuse me? That fire in your eyes, that quick tongue. You've been rehearsing comebacks." He tilted his head, studying her like a puzzle. "Which means I've been living in your head rent-free." Heat crept up her neck, but she refused to back down. "Don't flatter yourself. I have better things to think about than arrogant mafia bosses." "Arrogant," he repeated, almost amused. "You wound me." "Good." He chuckled again, shaking his head. "You're unlike anyone I've ever met." Nia rolled her eyes. "Is that your line? Do you recycle it for every woman you stalk?" "No," he said softly, and the sudden seriousness in his voice made her freeze. "Just you." Something in the way he said it, low, intense, certain, sent a strange shiver down her spine. She quickly busied herself, pulling a random book off the shelf. "You should leave. I have work to do." "I'll wait," he said casually. Her head snapped up. "Wait? For what?" "For you to finish. I don't recall inviting you anywhere." "Didn't need to." He leaned back against the counter, folding his arms. "When I want something, I don't wait for an invitation." Nia let out a disbelieving laugh. "Wow, you really think the world revolves around you, don't you?" His eyes glittered with mischief. "It doesn't, but when I walk into a room, it should." "Egotistical much?" "Confident," he corrected smoothly. "There's a difference." Nia groaned, rubbing her forehead. "Why me? Out of all the women in Seoul, why are you bothering me?" He leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper again. "Because you don't look at me with fear, and that drives me crazy." Her chest tightened despite herself. She quickly covered it with sarcasm. "Maybe you need therapy, not a bookstore visit." He grinned. "Maybe I need both." Before she could reply, the bell jingled again. A couple walked in, chattering happily as they browsed the shelves. Nia immediately stepped back, putting distance between herself and the boss, her cheeks still warm. He straightened his jacket smoothly, eyes still on her. "I'll be seeing you, kitten." "Don't call me that," she hissed. He smirked, already heading for the door. Too late. The bell chimed, and then he was gone, leaving only the faint echo of his laugh lingering in the shop. Nia let out a shaky breath, gripping the counter. This wasn't just obsession. This was the beginning of something far more dangerous. And deep down, she feared she wasn't strong enough to stop it. The bookstore lights flickered as Nia locked up late that evening. Mr. Lee had left hours earlier, reminding her not to stay out too long in this part of the city. She waved him off with a smile, but now, walking alone down the dim street, she regretted brushing off his concern. The alleyways were darker here, shadows curling like claws, the neon buzz of bars echoing faintly in the distance. Nia tightened her grip on her bag strap, quickening her pace. She hated how paranoid she felt these days. Ever since him, she shook her head. No, she wasn't going to let some mafia boss live rent-free in her thoughts. But then, a voice broke the silence. Well, what's a pretty thing like you doing out here alone?" Her heart skipped. 3 men stepped from the shadows ahead, reeking of alcohol. Tattoos sprawled messily across their arms. Their eyes glimmered with the kind of hunger that made her stomach twist. "Don't be scared," one of them sneered, moving closer. "We'll keep you company." Nia took a step back, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "Stay away from me." They laughed. The tallest one reached out, brushing his fingers against her bag strap. "Relax, we're just being friendly." Her pulse raced. She swung her bag sharply, smacking his hand away. "I said don't touch me." The men's laughter turned into something darker. The tall one grabbed her arm roughly, yanking her close. "Feisty. I like that." He didn't finish, because in the blink of an eye, he was shoved backward, crashing into a pile of trash bins with a grunt. Nia gasped, spinning around. And there he was, the mafia boss. He stood there in the alley, shirt half open, tattoos glistening under the faint streetlight, his expression dark enough to freeze the night itself. 2 of his men flanked him, silent but ready. "Boss," one of the thugs stammered, eyes widening in recognition. The boss's voice was low, deadly. "Did you just put your hands on her?" The thug scrambled up, shaking his head quickly. "We didn't know." "You didn't know what?" The boss cut him off, his tone icy. "That she belongs to me?" Nia's eyes widened. "Excuse me? I do not." "Quiet, kitten," he said without looking at her. His gaze locked on the trembling thugs. The alley fell silent except for the distant hum of traffic. The men stuttered apologies, backing away, but it was too late. The boss moved like a storm. In one swift motion, he slammed the tall thug against the wall, fist pressing into his chest. "Touch her again," he growled, "and I'll bury you myself." The thug's face turned pale, sweat dripping down his temple. He nodded frantically. The other 2 muttered rushed apologies before bolting down the alley, dragging their friend with them. Silence. Nia's chest rose and fell quickly, adrenaline rushing through her veins. He turned to her then, his expression still sharp, but softer somehow when his eyes met hers. "Are you hurt?" She blinked. "No. I'm fine. Let me see." He reached for her wrist where the thug had grabbed her, his fingers surprisingly gentle as he examined the faint red mark. His thumb brushed over it, sending an involuntary shiver up her arm. She pulled back quickly. "I said I'm fine." His lips curved slightly. "You're welcome, by the way." Nia narrowed her eyes. "I didn't ask you to play hero." "No," he said smoothly, smirk deepening. "But I couldn't let anyone else touch what's mine." Her mouth fell open. "Yours? Oh, you've lost your mind." He chuckled, clearly amused by her outrage. "You didn't correct me last time either. Maybe deep down you like it." "I'd rather kiss a snake," she snapped. "Careful," he murmured, stepping closer. "I bite harder than any snake you've ever met." Her breath caught despite herself. She hated how close he was, how his presence filled every inch of space, how her body betrayed her with a racing heart. She lifted her chin. So what now? You gonna follow me home like a creep? He smirked. If that's what it takes to keep you safe. I don't need your protection. Clearly, he said dryly, glancing down the alley where the thugs had fled. Nia glared at him, but he only looked amused. You should thank me properly, he said, his voice low, teasing. Her brows furrowed. Thank you? You expect me to thank the same man who threatened me twice in 1 week? He leaned in, eyes glinting with mischief. I expect you to admit you feel safer when I'm around. Her lips parted, words catching in her throat, because for a brief, terrifying second, she realized he was right, and that terrified her more than anything. She forced a smirk, hiding her unease. Safer? You're the danger, remember? He grinned. Exactly, and the danger always keeps you alive. With that, he stepped back, signaling to his men. They melted into the shadows as smoothly as they had appeared. But before he turned away, he caught her eyes one last time. Go home, kitten, he said softly, almost like a command. And next time, don't walk alone. Then he was gone, swallowed by the night. Nia stood frozen, her chest pounding, her mind spinning with questions she didn't want answers to. Because one thing was certain, he wasn't just a threat anymore. He was a storm, one she couldn't outrun. The city glittered below like spilled jewels, but Nia barely noticed. Her focus was on the man standing a few feet away, leaning lazily against the counter as though he didn't rule an empire of fear. Jinwoo's shirt hung open, tattoos curling over his chest and down his arms like secrets etched in ink. His eyes, dark, sharp, unreadable, never left her. You really like to stare, don't you? Nia said finally, folding her arms. He smirked, lifting his glass of whiskey. And you really like to talk when you're nervous. I'm not nervous. Her tone was firm, but her heart was betraying her, thudding hard against her ribs. He murmured, sipping slowly. If you say so. Nia turned toward the massive windows, hoping the view would steady her nerves. She could see the Han River cutting through the city, headlights tracing ribbons of light across bridges. Nice view, she said. Depends on what you're looking at, he replied. She glanced back, catching his eyes. The way he was watching her, calm yet hungry, sent heat crawling up her neck. Do you always flirt like this? She asked, tilting her head. Or is it just part of your Mafia act? Jinwoo chuckled, the sound low and rich. You think I'm acting? I think you're used to women falling at your feet, Nia shot back. And I'm not one of them. He pushed off the counter, walking toward her with deliberate slowness. Each step felt like a countdown. When he stopped just inches from her, she could smell the faint burn of whiskey on his breath, feel the heat radiating off his body. You're different, he murmured. Maybe you just don't know me, she countered, refusing to back away. He leaned down, his lips brushing close to her ear. Maybe I want to. Nia's stomach fluttered, but she held her ground. Careful, Jinwoo. You don't know what you're asking for. His smirk deepened. I could say the same to you. Do you even know what kind of man you're standing in front of? She met his gaze, steady and unflinching. A dangerous one. And yet, he said softly, you didn't run. The silence between them thickened, humming with tension neither of them wanted to break. Then, a sudden knock shattered the moment. Jinwoo's body stiffened instantly, his playful air vanishing like smoke. In one smooth motion, he reached under the table and pulled out a gun. The shift in him was startling. No longer the teasing man but the ruthless boss. Nia froze, her pulse racing. She opened her mouth, but he silenced her with a quick glance, finger pressed to his lips. The knock came again, louder this time. He moved toward the door with quiet, predatory steps, gun raised. Nia held her breath, every muscle in her body tight. The door swung open. A man in black stumbled inside, blood soaking his sleeve. Boss! His voice was hoarse, panicked. They found us. Jinwoo's eyes narrowed. Who? The Russians? The man gasped, clutching his arm. They're here. The words hung heavy in the air. Nia's heart pounded so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Jinwoo's jaw clenched, and for a brief moment, his gaze flicked to her. Protective, warning, dangerous, and just like that, the game of fire had turned into a war. The air in the penthouse shifted. The moment the bleeding guard spoke, the space seemed to shrink, heavy with tension. Jinwoo's jaw tightened, his eyes like ice as he shoved the man into a chair. "Stay awake," he ordered sharply. "Yes, boss." The man groaned, clutching his arm. Nia's eyes darted from the guard's bloody sleeve to the gun in Jinwoo's hand. Her mind screamed to run, but her body refused to move. She had stepped into his world, and now it was closing around her. Jinwoo turned, his gaze locking on her. "You!" His voice was calm, almost too calm. "Stay behind me. Do not make a sound unless I tell you." Nia swallowed hard, lifting her chin. "I'm not a child. I can handle myself." A shadow of a smirk tugged at his lips despite the danger. "You can't even handle my staring, Nia. This is different." Her pulse spiked. "Try me." Before he could respond, the sound of glass shattering echoed from the far end of the penthouse. Both of them whipped their heads toward the noise. Jinwoo cursed under his breath, grabbing her wrist. "Move!" He pulled her toward the kitchen, his grip strong but steady. For a man carrying so much danger, his hand was surprisingly warm. They ducked behind the marble counter just as footsteps thudded against the polished floor. Nia peeked up and caught sight of two armed men in dark coats sweeping through the living room. Russians. Jinwoo pressed a hand on her shoulder, forcing her lower. "Stay." Her eyes flashed. "I told you, I'm not a shoo," he hissed, eyes cutting toward her. The look in them silenced her instantly. It wasn't anger, it was raw protectiveness, edged with steel. The men spoke in harsh whispers, their accents sharp. One kicked over the table, sending shards of glass skittering across the floor. Jinwoo's fingers twitched on the gun. Nia noticed it. For the first time since meeting him, he didn't look untouchable. He looked human, focused, dangerous, but human. Leaning closer, she whispered, "What's the plan?" He gave her a sideways glance. "Plan?" A smirk flickered despite everything. "Shoot first, ask questions later." Nia rolled her eyes. "Wow, very strategic. Trust me, it works." Before she could retort, one of the Russians moved closer, his weapon raised. Jinwoo's body tensed, ready to spring. Nia's pulse hammered. Without thinking, she grabbed the heavy wine bottle sitting by the counter. The moment the man passed, she stood and swung. The bottle cracked against his skull, sending him crashing to the floor. Jinwoo's eyes widened slightly, then a low chuckle escaped him. "Remind me never to underestimate you." The second Russian spun around, gun lifting. But Jinwoo was faster. One shot, clean, precise, and the man dropped. The room went eerily quiet except for the ragged breaths of the injured guard and the pounding in Nia's ears. Jinwoo stepped closer to her, his gaze lingering on the broken bottle still clutched in her hand. Not bad for someone who claims she's not nervous. Her chest rose and fell, adrenaline flooding her veins. "I told you I can handle myself." He leaned in, his voice low, warm against her ear. "Maybe you're even more dangerous than me." Before Nia could respond, another explosion rattled the building, this time below them. The lights flickered. Sirens wailed in the distance. Jinwoo's smirk vanished. His hand found hers again, firmer now. "We're not safe here. Let's go." And just like that, Nia was running beside him, the city lights blurring outside the window, her world forever changed. The black SUV sped through Seoul streets like a phantom. Nia sat in the passenger seat, her chest still rising and falling from the adrenaline. The city lights streaked past, but her focus was fixed on the man gripping the wheel. Jinwoo's face was carved in stone, his jaw tight, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds. His hand rested casually on the gearshift, but Nia could see the veins in his forearm tense with every turn. "You drive like you're in a fast and furious audition," she muttered, gripping the seatbelt. He glanced at her, one corner of his mouth lifting. "And you swing bottles like you've been in a bar fight." She shot him a look. "Don't mock me." I saved your life back there. I shot 2 men, he countered smoothly. You gave one a headache, Nia huffed, crossing her arms. A knockout. Say it properly. For the first time that night, he chuckled, the sound low but genuine. Fine. A knockout. The silence that followed was heavy but not uncomfortable. Their eyes met briefly, and Nia quickly looked away, her stomach betraying her with a nervous flutter. Minutes later, Jin-woo pulled the SUV into an underground parking garage. He switched off the engine, the sudden quiet ringing in her ears. Where are we? She asked. A safe house, he said, stepping out. Not as fancy as the penthouse, but no one will find us here. Nia followed him into the building. The corridor smelled faintly of dust and old paint. When he unlocked the apartment, she stepped inside and blinked. It wasn't luxury, no chandeliers or floor-to-ceiling windows. Just a simple 2-bedroom flat with worn leather couches, dim lighting, and a kitchen that looked lived in. This is normal, she said, surprised. Disappointed? He asked, tossing his jacket on the couch. Honestly, she walked to the window and peeked through the blinds. Relieved. At least no one will shoot through these windows. Jin-woo leaned against the wall, watching her. You handled yourself. Better than I expected. Nia smirked, turning to face him. What did you expect? That I'd scream and hide under the table? Something like that. His eyes gleamed. Instead, you smashed a bottle over a man's head. She shrugged casually. A girl's gotta improvise. His gaze lingered, more intense now, as if he were studying her beyond her words. Nia felt the weight of it, heat rising to her cheeks. Why are you looking at me like that? She asked, shifting uncomfortably. He pushed off the wall and walked toward her slowly. Because most people in my world freeze when things get bloody. You didn't. And that surprises you? Nothing surprises me, he said softly, stopping just inches from her. His voice dropped, intimate. Except you. The air between them thickened, charged. Nia's breath caught. For a dangerous moment, she thought he might close the distance. Instead, he stepped back, running a hand through his messy hair. You should get some rest. Tomorrow we move again. Relief and disappointment tangled in her chest. She rolled her eyes, trying to mask it. Don't order me around. I'm not your soldier. A smirk returned to his lips. Then stop acting like one. She narrowed her eyes. You're insufferable. And yet, he said smoothly, you're still here. Before she could find a comeback, another low rumble echoed outside, the sound of motorcycles passing in the distance. Jinwoo's smile faded instantly. They're still searching. He grabbed his gun again, sliding it into his holster. Stay close to me, Nia. This isn't over. Her heart thudded, fear and excitement twisting together. She had stepped into fire, and there was no turning back now. The safe house was quiet, too quiet. Nia sat curled up on the edge of the couch, hugging a cushion to her chest. She could still hear the echo of those motorcycles outside, faint but threatening, like wolves circling prey. Jin-woo stood by the window, blinds barely parted, his broad shoulders tense. He hadn't spoken in 10 minutes, his entire focus locked on the streets below. Finally, Nia broke the silence. Do you ever sit still? Or are you always this wired? He didn't look at her. Staying alive requires being wired. That's not living, she muttered. This time he turned, one eyebrow raised. And you're an expert on living? She shot him a look. At least I don't confuse survival with life. For a moment, his expression softened, like her words hit deeper than she intended. He crossed the room and sat across from her, resting his elbows on his knees. You think my world is simple? He asked quietly. That I chose this? Nia held his gaze, searching his eyes. I think you wear your crown of thorns too proudly, like you want people to fear you instead of see you. The corner of his mouth twitched, but he didn't smile. And what do you see, Nia? Her chest tightened. She hadn't expected the question, nor the way his voice dropped when he said her name. I see a man who hides behind tattoos and whiskey, she said carefully. but also someone who keeps looking out the window instead of closing his eyes to rest. His jaw flexed, as if he wanted to argue but couldn't. Instead, he leaned back, letting out a low breath. "You talk too much," he said finally. She smirked. "And you brood too much." That earned her a chuckle, short but real. The tension shifted, softer now, warmer. Nia dared to tease further. "So, Mr. Mafia boss, what do you do for fun, besides scaring people half to death?" Jin-woo tilted his head, pretending to think. "I don't know. Shooting? Gambling? Making women nervous." She laughed, shaking her head. "You're impossible. And you're distracting," he countered smoothly. Her laughter died in her throat as their eyes locked. The air thickened again, heavy and electric. He was close now, too close, his gaze dropping briefly to her lips before flicking back up. Nia's heart thundered, but she forced herself to break eye contact. She pushed off the couch, pacing toward the kitchen. "I'm thirsty. Got any water in this hideout of yours?" Jin-woo leaned back, smirking at her retreat. "Top cabinet." She found a bottle and poured herself a glass, trying to steady her trembling hands. She wasn't supposed to feel this way. Not for him. Not for a man drenched in danger. Behind her, his voice softened. "Why didn't you run, Nia?" She turned, confused. "Run? From me? From tonight? Most people would have disappeared after seeing blood on the floor. But you stayed." Her throat went dry. "Maybe I don't scare as easily as you think." He studied her in silence, his expression unreadable. Then, almost too softly, he said, "Or maybe you're just as reckless as me." For a long moment, neither moved. The safe house hummed with the tension of unspoken things. Finally, Jin-woo stood, running a hand through his hair. "Get some sleep. We leave before sunrise." Nia opened her mouth to argue but stopped. She could see the weariness in his eyes, the cracks in the armor he worked so hard to keep. As she walked toward the spare room, she glanced back. He was still standing there, watching her, shadows dancing across his face. And though she closed the door behind her, Nia knew one thing for sure. She was in deeper than she had ever imagined. The safe house was silent except for the hum of the old refrigerator. Nia lay on the spare bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, her thoughts restless. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him, Jin-woo, standing tall with danger in his hands, or smirking at her like she was the first woman to ever defy him. Sleep refused to come. With a frustrated sigh, she swung her legs off the bed and padded quietly into the living room. Jin-woo was still awake, sitting on the couch with a gun resting on the coffee table, a half-empty glass of water beside him. His shirt was gone, leaving his tattoos bare, black ink curling over muscles that flexed with every slow movement. He glanced up when she entered, a small smirk tugging at his lips. "Couldn't sleep? Your walls creak like they're hiding ghosts," Nia muttered, folding her arms. "How does anyone rest here?" "Ghosts don't scare me," he replied. "Living people do." She rolled her eyes and sat on the opposite end of the couch. "You're so dramatic. Comes with the territory." He leaned back, studying her with that unreadable gaze. "But you should be terrified. And yet here you are, making jokes." "Maybe I'm just brave," she shot back. "Or foolish." Their eyes locked. Neither looked away this time. The air thickened, charged, pulling them closer without either of them moving. Jin-woo shifted, turning toward her. His voice dropped, low and rough. "Tell me, Nia, do you ever stop testing me?" She smirked, leaning slightly closer. "Do you ever stop trying to intimidate me?" His lips curved, but his eyes darkened. He leaned in, closing the space inch by inch. Nia's breath caught. Her heart hammered, but she didn't back down. She could feel the warmth of him, the danger, the temptation. For a moment, she thought he'd actually do it. His eyes flicked to her lips, lingering. The world seemed to hold its breath. Bang! A sudden thud against the door shattered the moment. Jin-woo was on his feet instantly, grabbing the gun. Nia's pulse spiked. Another thud. This one harder. Someone was outside. Jinwoo moved silently to the peephole, his body tense. After a beat, he cursed under his breath. They found us. Nia's stomach dropped. The Russians. He nodded once. His voice was cold, sharp. Stay behind me. No arguments. She opened her mouth to protest, but the look in his eyes stopped her. This wasn't teasing Jinwoo. This was the Mafia boss, the man who ruled shadows. He raised the gun, his body a shield between her and the door, and whispered, "Looks like tonight. The ghosts are real." The pounding on the door grew louder, rattling the whole safe house. Nia's breath came in quick bursts, her fingers gripping the edge of the couch. Jinwoo's gun was steady, his jaw clenched tight. "Stay low," he whispered, his voice like steel. The lock cracked, the door splintered, and then boom, it burst open, 3 masked men storming in with guns raised. Everything happened in a blur. Jinwoo fired first, his movements sharp, controlled, lethal. One man dropped instantly. The second lunged, but Jinwoo twisted, disarming him with terrifying ease before putting a bullet in his chest. The third aimed for Nia. "Jinwoo!" she cried out. Without thinking, she grabbed the heavy glass ashtray from the table and hurled it. It smashed into the man's head, giving Jinwoo the split second he needed. He fired. Silence fell. The room reeked of smoke and gunpowder. Nia's chest rose and fell rapidly, her hands trembling. She had never been so close to death, and yet never felt so alive. Jinwoo lowered his gun, his eyes darting to her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, though her legs were still shaking. I think I just saved your life." He allowed himself the smallest smile. "You did." His voice softened. "And that terrifies me." She frowned. "Why?" "Because." He stepped closer, his hand reaching up to cup her face, his thumb brushing gently over her cheek. "The more you save me, the more I realize I don't ever want to lose you." Her lips parted, but words failed her. His gaze was intense, raw, desperate, as if he'd been holding it in for far too long. And then he kissed her. Not the controlled, calculated Jinwoo everyone feared, but a man stripped of all his armor. His lips crashed against hers with heat and hunger, tasting of smoke and adrenaline. She melted into him, her hands gripping his shoulders, the tattoos beneath her fingers flexing as he pulled her closer. When they finally broke apart, breathless, she whispered, "What happens now?" Jinwoo glanced at the lifeless bodies on the floor, then back at her. His smirk returned, though softer this time. "Now, we burn this place down. And then we start over." Her brows arched. "Start over? With what?" "You're a mafia boss, Jinwoo. You're mine." He cut in firmly, his hand tightening around hers. "And I don't care what it takes. I'll fight the whole damn world if I have to." Nia stared at him, her heart thundering. For the first time, she saw the truth behind the power, behind the darkness. He was a man who had chosen her. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, but inside, amid the wreckage and smoke, they stood together, bound by fire and desire. The world might never forgive them, but at that moment, neither of them cared.
Hello, besties. In this story, we learn that even in a world of darkness, love can be a light, but it only survives when both people are willing to fight for it, protect it, and choose each other above all else. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, subscribe, and share.